You know, every relationship will come across conflict at some point, but there's still a way you can approach conflict where you can still be happy with your partner. Relationship counselor David Flowers from David Flowers Couples Teletherapy is back in studio with us today to give some insight on what he says is going to be maybe some surprising information most people dealing with conflict in relationships may not have considered. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me back.
First off, how often are communication problems at the center of conflict for couples that you counsel?
Oh, probably 90%
Yeah.
of the calls I get.
And why do you think that is?
Well, because problems can go wrong. Things can go wrong in relationships in 100 different ways, but if you can't talk about it, you're going to get stuck on most of those things.
Okay, so really we kind of hinted there at a big surprise when it comes to dealing with conflict.
Yeah.
What is it? Drop it on us. What is it?
So here's the big surprise, right? Couples call and they think, oh, we're having communication problems, so we're going to contact a therapist, we're going to get in, the therapist is going to help us communicate better, and we'll solve more of our problems. But the big surprise is 69% of all conflict in relationships is unresolvable.
That's a staggering number there.
It is.
You said unresolvable.
Unresolvable.
Okay, you got to explain that. What does that mean?
Right. Well, the idea is, you got your 31% of solvable problems.
Sure.
Those are like, I would say it's 85 degrees in here right now. I'd say it's 78 degrees, and you go and look at the thermostat, and somebody's right and somebody's wrong.
Okay.
Right?
Something a little more black and white.
Yeah, right? But most stuff isn't like that. Most stuff is his opinion versus her opinion, right? This take versus that take. This experience and background versus that experience and background.
Okay, so if most conflicts, as you say, in relationships are not resolvable, how do couples live happily and peacefully together?
That's the big question, right? Because so the answer to that is really interesting. It turns out when you take 1,000 couples that are doing very well and are very connected, and 1,000 couples that are really struggling, both sets of couples argue. There's problems with both. There's anger that happens in both sets of couples. The fundamental difference, though, is that couples that do well speak differently to each other when they're upset. They do conflict in a fundamentally different way.
So I've heard that kind of before, like learn how to fight right or something. Does that make sense?
Kind of fighting fair.
Fighting fair. Yeah, so talk about that a little bit more. So again, unresolvable, man, that's a big word. How do you get close to that, though? So it comes down to how you talk about conflict?
Yeah, it's how you do it. It's not the content, it's what I call the process.
So right? what are some tips there to make that process better?
Yeah, well, there's 4 things, right? We're looking, when I have a couple come in and they're speaking with each other and they're having conflict, I'm looking for 4 primary things. This comes from the work of Dr. John Gottman, by the way. This isn't my work, but this is Dr. Gottman's work. And what we're looking for is,
What's the first step?
I know I'm blanking out.
No, it's okay. What do you tell people when it comes to trying to reach a place?
Well, the first thing is flooding.
Okay.
Right? Flooding is the first thing. Is that we're looking for couples that are getting really worked up. Their heart rate's getting up above 100 beats per minute, right? And when that happens, you go into a kind of a state, kind of like you're a toddler in a way, almost. You've seen toddlers who just really are losing it.
Right. You're not open to receiving.
Right.
Someone else's opinions.
Yeah, exactly, right? So we have to help couples learn how to manage that flooding state so that they can stay calm, or at least become calm, so that they actually can speak with each other. In a
so tips on
productive
calming
way.
yourself down. A couple other ones before we go.
Right.
Hit on those. What are some ways to approach each other amicably?
Yes, so defensiveness is a big problem, right? And in order to not be defensive, what does that require? Well, you have to be able to stay calm, right? You have to be able to regulate yourself. Criticism is another thing. There's a big difference between saying, it really bothered me when we were at the store yesterday and you said such and such, on one hand, versus, I can't believe you said that. You always embarrass me. You always...
The approach matters.
Oh, huge. Like we say, how it's done makes a huge difference.
All right. There's some good information to consider there. Again, David, you surprised me saying most conflicts are unresolvable. But there's some more information on your screen in case you're interested in trying to resolve any conflicts you're having as a couple. As always, thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me again.
We appreciate it.
Roll into the new year with a new ride from Vic Hanover Chevrolet. Choose from rows and rows of 2023 Silverados and Equinoxes in all price points, colors, and options.